So ladies and gentlemen, we do move on now into our first panel. And as we mentioned, our different panels do mirror the different phases of that lifelong learning chain. So we're going to begin with the digitally enhanced classroom. Key questions: how we can ensure the active engagement on the part of learners, because as you know, that active engagement is absolutely crucial to ensuring that inputs, in fact, deliver outputs. How can we adapt instruction to individual needs, customized learning, and at the same time promote collaboration? Those are some of the issues that we will be addressing with a very eminent international panel. And I will introduce our chair and our input speaker in just a moment, but I want to first let you know how you can participate in our panel as well, ladies and gentlemen, also in the streaming audience. We have an interactive tool called Pigeonhole, and I'm hoping we're going to see, well, we don't at the moment, but here's how you find it. You turn over your badge and you look for the Pigeonhole address, or you now go to the following address. It is pigeonhole.at/GLC, of course for Global Learning Council, 2017. And as I say, you'll find it on your badge's reverse side. If you go to that site, you will then see the agenda. If you click on a particular agenda item, in this case panel 1, you will then see a screen where you can, where it says view this Q&A. If you click on that, you can write your question, or, and this is really great, you can like somebody else's question, because, small hint, the panel chairs are likely to take the questions with the most likes. So feel free to ask an individualized question, but if you like somebody else's, it might have a very good chance of actually being posed. So the panel chairs will be, it will be delivered into their hands, an iPad on which they can find the questions later on, and they will bring them into the discussion when they see fit. And because we are very anxious to have active engagement right here in the room, we also, you can ask your questions the old school way, at least it's kind of old school. We have microphones, but they are rather unusual microphones. Would the microphone holders kindly stand up? We have one right here, and we have another one, should be in the 4th row. Sabina, ist da auch ein Mikrofon? Ja. Okay, so if you'll kindly stand up and show it, exactly. So these are embedded microphones. They're embedded in these things that look like dice, but they happen to be soft and light, which means you can throw them. So metaphorically speaking, with a throw of the dice, you can pass the questions on to someone else. If you would like to speak into an embedded microphone, then please locate one there or there, and you are very welcome to speak then when your chairs call on you. So indicate that you have a question and the chair will then find you. The discussion of the digitally enhanced classroom will now begin with introductory remarks, and afterward the panel chair will take over. The panel chair is Eckhard Winter. He's Managing Director of the Deutsche Telekom Foundation, and it's my pleasure now to hand over to our input speaker, Executive Director of the IWM, that's the Leibniz Institute for Wissenmedien, which is an independent research institute that focuses on how digital media are influencing knowledge processes. Please give a very warm welcome to Ulrike Kress. Thanks.
Hello all together. I was asked to give some remarks on this panel about the technology-enhanced classroom. So, to give you some association, many schools are still something like analog islands in a digital world, at least here in Germany. So which equipment do we need to enhance the classrooms? Video projectors, interactive boards, tablets, mobile phones, or in the future, perhaps interactive tables for each student, augmented realities, brain-computer interfaces, or teaching robots, who knows? What will the tools for the next 10 to 20 years be? Can schools really afford them? And how have school buildings and classrooms to be adapted in order to afford the use of these tools? This is my first association. It refers to technology. Does enhanced digital classroom means to enhance the classroom by technology? The second association would be, it's the enhancement of teaching that should happen. So how can technology improve really teaching? How can it make our teaching better? It can, for example, improve classroom management. It can individualize instruction. It can make interaction, collaboration between the students possible. It may also help to link school to everyday learning. It may widen the interactive space. Students may not only be able to contact their schoolmates in the room, but also work with schoolmates from other classes, other teachers, even from communities outside the school. And last but not least, mobile technology may bridge learning in schools with learning in the wild. Students may be able to go to museums, to science museums, or to work as citizen scientists and observe animals in their surrounding nature. But we all know media do not automatically make learning better. All those media have to be used in an adequate way, and teachers definitely have to be trained for that. So we need, and this on the primary goal, we need adequate teacher educations. Currently, many teachers are reluctant to use media because it's much effort for them. They may lose control over the classroom, and it's just troublesome. My first association is that enhancement of the classroom may refer to enhancement of learning, of the students' learning. And I think this is the primary goal when we want to use and to bring digital technology into the classrooms. We want to make students' learning really better. We want to make their learning deeper, more efficient, more effective, perhaps also more motivating, more self-regulated, more interactive, more flexible, more creative, or whatever we can use with media. And research, also our own research at the IWM in Tübingen, shows that this can really happen. So there is much empirical, experimental evidence that tools can make learning better. But we have, of course, to have adequate learning settings. So we need the other issues too. We need a variety of technical tools in the classrooms, and we need teachers who are able to use these tools for their teaching, and we need, of course, these media. So tools, teaching and learning are strongly related to each other. They influence each other. Different technological tools have different instructional potentials, and teachers have to use this and have to use this adequately and flexibly. And this variety of tools, settings, and instructions make the digitally enhanced classroom such a complex field. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Professor Kress. My name is Eckhard Winter, Managing Director of Deutsche Telekom Stiftung. And maybe just 2 sentences of what we are doing in the foundation. Our focus is on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, in short, STEM education, and education in the digital world. And therefore, we are happy to support the Global Learning Council Summit. It is impossible, I think, to pick up on all aspects you presented in the remaining 18 minutes. We are behind schedule already. So I would like to focus on 3 aspects. The first one is collaborative learning communities beyond the classroom. How will continuous professional development of teachers and education experts may look like in the future? And I'm pleased to announce Holm Keller, who speaks for the OECD on a very new innovative tool. The second aspect has been touched upon by Volker Meyer-Guckel, the pedagogical concepts that are missing. And the slogan could be teaching trumps technology. How can 21st century skills be imparted with and without digital tools inside and outside the classroom, or even without classrooms at all? And we will have an example for that from the Netherlands and another example from Germany, from two principals, school principals. The third question is the growing heterogeneity of learners. How can we handle this? With a special focus on student-centered approaches in vocational training, we will hear a brief presentation by Professor Carsten Wolf from Bremen University. All those aspects are of global importance. The contributions of Dülfer and Wolf, however, give the session a certain German flavor. Since the system of dual vocational education and training has been a strength in this country, but meets new challenges in the digital world. And all four speakers will be involved in the concluding panel session, as all of you are as well, the plenary discussion. So the first kickoff speech will be delivered by Holm Keller. He is, in the best sense of the word, a jack of all trades. He's a consultant to OECD's Directorate for Education and Skills on PISA, and in this function he will talk today. He also serves as the executive chairman of Canup Foundation, which is a global partnership in innovation with more than 100 member organizations promoting research-based innovation for the public and societal benefit. Previously, Mr. Keller acted as executive vice president for university development and innovation at Leuphana University of Lüneburg, a very innovative university in Germany, and he held top management positions at Bertelsmann in Shanghai, Seoul, Sydney, New York, and London. Before, Holm Keller was associate principal with McKinsey & Company, where he was instrumental for building the firm's global accelerator practice. Educated in Vienna and at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, he had worked as a musical composer and an artistic producer. So we are looking forward to your presentation. It's on PISA for You, the online program for school improvement, a unique collaborative global learning platform, hence an ideal example to be presented at the Global Learning Council Summit. It's global learning at its finest. A new promising format maybe in continuous professional development of educators, which is of central importance, as we just heard, for the success of technology-enhanced learning. And it's addressed in the paper, the consensus paper, Berlin consensus paper, that pedagogical challenges should be addressed on a global scale. The floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to introduce you to an online pedagogy that we have been quite successfully, from our perspective, experimenting with at OECD's PISA system. This was made possible by a number of foundations, most notably by Deutsche Telekom Stiftung, who made the initial grant that allowed OECD to get the program rolling. So we are very, very grateful for this opportunity. PISA for You. Can you click, please? Aha, there is a clicker here. Okay, self-clicking. Okay. PISA for You is a pure online program aiming at grounding PISA in schools. As you know, the working horizon of PISA is schooling systems, educational systems. And one of the challenges and opportunities going forward is around how to much deeper involve teachers. There's a number of digital opportunities the PISA team is currently using. We have a PISA test for schools, which allows individual schools to benchmark themselves against other schools, so to take learning on the road without involving ministries and the like. There is also PISA for You, which is a mode in which we have been reaching out to teachers globally, asking what you could do better in order to improve teaching outcomes in your own teaching environment. And teachers do that in global teams, which is also based on an understanding that probably many of you have read the PISA reports, but almost everybody is lacking experience on what on earth in the classroom do the colleagues in Singapore, for example, really do differently. And to get that opportunities to teachers, we are forming global teams. One team has 5 participants from 5 different countries, but they are all teaching the same topics in about the same grades. So PISA for You is still running in its pilot phase. So I'm giving you a sneak preview now in how it looks like. I can tell you that OECD is considering to move that program forward because from our perspective, the initial findings are extremely encouraging. So the didactics is all about learning in teams. We know that retention in online programs is significantly higher if you work in teams. We know that landed in classical university setting, learning from peers is as important as learning from instructors. And we have built a way on how to create that team learning environment online for our purpose. This is mainly based on peer review and peer accountability. So we're using the quote-unquote old school peer review aspect so that every paper, everything that is written is reviewed by peers before it is being reviewed by the actual instructional community. There is a large degree of accountability that comes from that process. You can see that in the beginning, teachers who participated in the program were uploading pseudo-pictures using pseudonyms. At about half of the program, almost everybody had his real picture, his real name, and in many cases, cell phone numbers and stuff on the platform. So a trusted system has been built. We are using a learning cycle process. The system is built on so-called assignments. So each team resolves 5 assignments in a row, which start with the preparation phase, go through the collaboration phase, and then the evaluation cycle. They build on each other and go to an end product, which is very important for retention and also to see the big picture of what the thing is actually going to be there for. Okay, that clicking thing is not the best technology in the world, okay. What we do is we know that learning systems can never be developed to the same speed as the internet itself with all the big tools are evolving. So we are totally agnostic to the type of collaborative and production enhancement tools people are using. Basically, we have APIs into everything that's out there. We don't care, and we are not trying to outperform or outspend Microsoft, Apple, or the like. So what we see here is over the 3 years the system is being operational. The platforms people have been using have almost completely exchanged. Nothing is left from what we had in year 1, and this process is evolving. Very critical to the success is that this is not a self-learning system. So it's not only a lonely, you are not only not a lonely wolf, you are in a team, but moreover, your team is supported by tutors and mentors. This is expensive. It is not cheaper than regular classroom education. It does not provide economy of scale. But what it does is it provides a more structured and in many cases better support structure than you can ever do in offline learning. As a fundament and as a basis, the PISA team has produced a number of best practice examples. So to stimulate thinking on this program, one that might be particularly relevant for that forum here is actually a very deep look inside of one of Singapore's best schools and a very deep discussion in that on how they achieve their results and how the actual classroom preparation and classroom work goes. So have a look, it's quite interesting. So the entire program, as I said, is based on assignments, so it's stepping stones one after the other, moving from jointly identifying a challenge to something that we call a resource that can be shared. So participants go through the process of identifying topics where they believe they can make a difference and where actually delivery at school has a big lever to improve. And they build jointly with an experience from, say, one participant from Singapore, one from Lithuania, one from the US, one from South Africa, and one from Russia, for their particular topic, mathematics grade 8 or whatever it might be, at a general school, they develop a resource that could substantially improve on that dimension, and they do it based on experiences of 5 different educational systems. All of these resources are in a database. They are available to the PISA process, but also to the scientific domain at a larger scale. We had about 5,000 participants from 172 countries. I won a bottle of champagne because everybody was saying teachers are not going to do that. What's in it for them? Why would a teacher spend 5 hours every week without being paid? They are anyway overworked, underpaid, so on and so forth. The opposite was true. We had to close registration very quickly. We have a global outreach with 172 countries that OECD rarely reaches, and we have a very high retention rate in that program. So most of the participants are actually teachers. We are in the evaluation now looking at how that very odd mix of countries, I put you the top country participation in there, quite female, which is to be expected. What is interesting is that almost, well, a little bit more than a third were entire mobile users. And the interesting thing is most of the active users were mobile users. So brought us to a challenge that these folks are writing texts, creating presentations, interacting entirely on their cell phones, which from the IT development perspective is something we need to consider to improve on for phase 2. Now, if you look in interim, what have these communities chosen as a big challenge and where a lot of the work has been conducted upon? The key topic is student motivation, and it's interesting to look at the programs that have been developed. Classroom management and disciplinary issues come second. Counter to our expectation, parental involvement comes very close after that. Third. Fourth, bringing 21st century skills into school curriculum, and technology was really only the 5th issue that has been ranked. The community is very vivid. As you can see, people show their original pictures. There is also a dating aspect to that, like in all of these online platforms, which is funny. Every other month, one of the dating companies wants to buy this platform because it's finally something meaningful people could do. We are not selling, though. There's a library, which is a library that aims at the pull logic. So students have to pull it's a lot of filmed materials. Some of this is helping very complicated texts to be read in a better way. We have been collaborating on some of that also with Deutsche Welle. Thank you very much. Lots of partners in the program. So this is now a page of one of the teams. So there's a homepage for each team where then they post what they are doing. There's quite a bit of marketing involved, as always in online. We will have a winner in the end, and that winner will be presenting to the PISA Council and the PISA board in Paris what they like to do. For you to know is we are using this instrument as OECD also for a big political participation process, defining minimum standards for the integration of migrants. It's something you can also do on that platform, and the platform itself will be used for a number of academic programs. There will be a medical degree program that will be run on that, and a few others. This is outside of the OECD domain. PISA for You is very grateful to the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. They made the most substantive contribution in making this program possible. Deutsche Telekom is to be thanked for in all tonalities, the first German funder ever to the PISA system, so we are very grateful, and a number of other parties who made this successful. Thank you very much for your time. I'm 2 minutes behind, I apologize.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I think that's a very innovative way for global learning. And I pick up one question from the audience, because it should be global, and you showed it. How will education look like in the developing countries in the future? Will Africa, Asia be left behind, and this will lead to a wide gap of knowledge between the developing and developed countries? You showed us a list of countries, and there were countries like Nigeria, Philippines, Mexico in the top 10.
I mean, the good news for the PISA team is that participation in this program has really been global, and we saw that educators in countries that have less advantageously financed education systems are quite active in reaching out. So the equality in education will be probably the most relevant driver for global wealth and development, and the PISA system is very conscious of our obligation to contribute, and PISA for You is one of the programs that can help here also in less well-financed countries.
There's another question I will put to Ulrike Kress later. Do we really need more research? You can answer that later, just think about it. We have bigger challenges like professional development, and that's it's all about continuous professional development. So my question would be, this is a very sophisticated approach, and can that be adopted as a widely accepted format for teacher CPD? That is to say, for the rank and file of teachers.
The key learnings we have are threefold. One is, if you work in teams, you tutor and mentor, and you empower the learner himself, you get to high retention and you get to measurably better teaching outcomes compared to a standard classroom situation. This is the aim. The second major learning is that these digital platforms substantially help building global bridges and opportunities. The issue for teachers is they are mostly working in their regional environments where they have been educated. And there's, compared to many other professions, a relatively limited degree of internationalization. Programs like this can indeed help, and they help bottom up, but they of course need to be complemented by top-down approaches, as you know them extremely well from OECD and PISA.
Thank you. I think we have to move to the next topic, or the real topic of this of this panel because it's called the Digitally Enhanced Classroom, and we will turn now to the Digitally Enhanced Classroom proper. Personally, I don't like this label very much because it refers more to technology and less to teaching, and a digitally enhanced classroom is useless unless it is embedded in an environment of ongoing lesson and school development. We will have 2 short presentations in a row now. The first one is on Agora at Nike Roermond, Netherlands, a radical, holistic approach reaching far beyond new technologies. And the second one is on a vocational school, the Oskar-von-Miller Schule in Kassel, a school with a long history of more than 50 years, now on its way into the digital era. I would like to introduce Jan Fasen. He is the principal of Mundium College, a set of 4 schools for secondary education in Roermond, Netherlands, including Nike, with a total of 2,500 students and 240 teachers. In addition, Jan Fasen is founder of Agora, and he will talk about this model, where the established idea of school has been dropped altogether. So the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes to explain what is Agora, other than the central meeting place in ancient Greece.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I feel very honored to be here in this wonderful building, in this wonderful city, to talk about Agora, to share some ideas we have about what is education in this era and what needs to be done to bring children to learn again. This is Nike. It's a school building, and it's one of my school buildings, and in this school building we started Agora in 2014. And it looks nice. I think it looks nice. And when people don't know this is a school building, and I ask, based on this image, what kind of building is it? No one says it's a school building, and that's a really important issue. Because when we talk about school, we immediately have images what is happening in that building. And there are classrooms, and there are corridors, and children have to be in the classroom because when they are in the corridors, they did something wrong. It's in our DNA. We all follow this kind of education in this way. At this time, it's secondary education I'm talking about. At this time, 110 students are on Agora. Coming years, there are 180. And how does this work? Oh yeah, it is. And it's not because of the existence of technology that we have to change our educational system. But all our students have a smartphone. All our students have a Chromebook, have an iPad, and they may use it in classrooms. And they have access to Facebook and the Khan Academy and the apps they need. But it's not the main reason that we have to change our educational system, because we have a major other problem, and that's the second issue I mentioned here, is because of the high urgency that we have to create to set up a learning society which will not prepare our kids for the future, but enables them to create a future. When we all read our papers and we all look on television, then it seems that we are facing a future full of anger, aggression, and it's a terrifying mindset which is coming up to us. When I look what is in my school, I see youngsters which are hopeful, which are enjoying their lives, which are working and learning together, which are doing challenging things and travel over the world. And that's our future. The future exists already. He's in our schools, but we don't ask our kids about their minds and thoughts and ideas about that future. And that's a very important issue when we want to come to a deeper learning and a deeper insight by the kids, by themselves, but also for their own future. The second thing, which is very important for me, is that we have to create a learning society which treats every child unequal. So every child is getting the same chances. Now they are sitting in classrooms in Holland, divided on levels and age, and when they once sit in a classroom, divided on a level, they never come out. And it depends in this time that not every child, children don't get the same chances in the world. It depends who is your father and who is your mother. It depends how rich are your father and your mother. And that's a great worry of mine, and the segregation must be a huge issue on the national and politics agenda, but it started also how do we organize our learning systems in our own school, and how bring we all kids to learning and to develop and growth in a fantastic way. Another insight is a learning society, which the world's great and exciting challenges unlocks for our children. The curriculum is on the street, not in lesson books. 98% of the curriculum is on the street, is in the world, is in the companies, in the institutions, is with our parents. But we are not able to unlock this great challenging things for our kids. And then is technology the thing at this moment, maybe the only thing why we can start it doing now. Because it realizes that social society, and it is able to organize this for every child in a personalized way. Okay, yes, there it is. I have some other issues mentioned, but it's especially for the Dutch situation. But I think it's comparable in other countries. We are doing it high on OECD by outcomes, learning outcomes, but we're doing it very, very low, under on the list, with motivation of kids. The segregation aspect I mentioned already. Parents pay in Holland 157 million euros for education because we don't doing our job very well with exams training, with housework support, and so on and so on. It's a great issue that a lot of teachers are doing not their work with a lot of pleasure, because it's the most shineable and interesting and grateful job you can have, to be a teacher, to work with kids on the future. But they don't feel it like that anymore. That's an important issue we have to work on. So sit down and reflect on the question, what is why we are here on this educational earth? When we should have the opportunity to start again now, would we then build these buildings with classrooms and corridors, with 25 chairs and tables over there and one teacher over here, and the kids are waiting, sometimes without aim, sometimes without motivation, what the teacher is starting to tell? Would we start again in that way? I don't think so. I don't think so. So we have to blow up the system. We have to finish it. And that's the reason we started Agora. 100 students, 100 personalized routes. Thanks to the technology, because for 20 years ago we couldn't, because we had it all to write in cahiers what every child does. Technology helps us on Agora. But learning starts not with the curriculum. Learning starts not with the lesson books. Learning starts with wonder moments and asking questions. And that's the starting point of learning of all that Agora kids. When you come to me and you see the building I showed you at the start of my presentation, and you come in that building, also when I came here with my son this morning, I say, wow, what is this? Wow, it comes to my heart. And what is this? It's a question. And the learning has started. Investigate, what is this? How did it come so far? And well, the second thing is in collaboration with the world. Learning in ecosystems. Schools are no longer the cathedrals of learning. Learn in ecosystem, invite and meet the world, so children can put up all those great challenges, and they can do it with wise adults, with parents and with teachers. Teachers are more important in this new approach than ever, but they are guiding on the process. They are not guiding on the result. They don't need to know everything about what is going on in the world. They need to know every child, and they need to know where that child can get the information and the knowledge, the excellent knowledge he needs to set a step further. Well, let children play so they can celebrate their failures, and do it in a heterogenic group. Don't divide on level and don't divide on age. That's not what they need and never give up. It's a wonderful hell of a job to create a new educational system. I have experience with it, and sometimes people say, I'm mad, I'm crazy. And for a few years ago, I didn't dare to Twitter about it, because some people are really anxious about turning on and give a total collapse to the educational system. But we have to do it for ourselves, for our kids, and therefore for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. Would you... Here is a couple of questions. Just 3. How does Agora perceive the process of assessment in education? And is it really a unique instrument, or do you believe it can be a methodology disseminated in a number of countries?
Let's start with the last. Every child will grow and becomes, how do you mean, vleugels? Wings, yes, thank you very much. Becomes wings when he gets attention and when he is able to tell what is in his mind, what bothers him, and what he is looking for. And when there's someone who will help him on that process to become a better person in the world. So that's not only in the Netherlands an issue, it's all over the world, I guess. I'm sure about that.
But do you know other institutions already existing in the Netherlands or elsewhere?
No, we are the first one in the Netherlands, and we have a lot of public to come and visit us, and they say, I wanted to, but political legislation is not very helpful to realize that, because we have to fund new schools, to get some euros to pay our teachers, because they have to pay very well. They do a wonderful job, and that is not very helpful at this moment, the political issues. The first question was about assessments. We use the insights of Zimmermann, self-regulated learning. And when children wonder about things and ask questions, for example, some issues of the Victory Tower here in Berlin, where I was yesterday, and they want to investigate that, then there's a forethought phase. And then children think about, with the guiding of their teacher, why do I want to investigate that Victory Tower? What is wondering, why I'm curious about that? And what are my goals? And please don't set that goals too low. Give it a great, really challenge to reach something. So that's the forethought phase. It's the longest phase of the learning process. The second phase is the performance. He starts and investigates and talks with people and goes to Berlin and climbs up and feels how the experience is. And the third phase is the self-reflection phase. And that's maybe the most important phase, because he looks back and he does this always with others, with teachers and with other students he collaborates with. And that gives a great insight about his practice, about his growth, about his lacks. So that's our manner. And we use technology to bring it to insight, and we can view it on a system we built by ourselves.
Maybe one last question. Where do you find the teachers who have to adopt a completely new role in this setting?
In my own organization, because a lot of teachers want this, a lot. But it's nearly a challenge to bring them in the position to be an Agorian master. We don't call them teachers, we call them Agorian masters. It's a kind of mastership you have to reach in 5 years. And the most difficult part is to make contact again with kids. We always say, leave your subject, leave your knowledge. There's a child who wants to become better in life. Step to him, give him a hand, and ask the question, what are we going to do together to bring you better in life? And that's the most challenging thing a teacher has to do. And sometimes teachers say, I'm afraid of that really contact I have to make with children.
Thank you. Jan Fasen. The second speaker is Wilfried Dülfer, Vice Principal at the Oskar-von-Miller School Kassel, a vocational school with more than 2,000 students. He is very experienced in teacher training and CPD, particularly in the fields of learning technologies, quality and staff development, and change management. And he carried out trainings in countries like China and Indonesia. Wilfried Dülfer will start with a very brief introduction of the German system called the dual vocational education and training, because not all of you are familiar with this system. And maybe I can tell what the second 12 votes went to the question, could you address some of the implementation challenges of digital learning? I think that's what you will talk about.
Thank you very much. First of all, I might say thank you to you both, because I think this is the way we must do it in the future. And this will be the only way we can do it. Before I start how we changed my school, I would like to show you how the dual system in Germany is working, because it's not well known in the world. So I need something to change. Okay.
Press it really hard.
Yeah, I try my very best. Okay, the vocational training in the dual system in Germany. First of all, in my school, there are young people. They are about 16 years to 40 years old, and they want to learn a profession. And so they write a letter of application to, it's very hard, to trade or industry to become a vocational training. And if they are good, they are good for the companies, they will get apprentice. And then they made a contract whether to the Chamber of Industry or the Chamber of Handicraft. And now comes the dual partner. The dual partner in Germany is the vocational school. Usually, the learners go 1 week in the vocational school and they have 2 weeks to learn in the firm. And if it's working good, both partners are working together. Then theory and practice come together, and what they learn will be good. This is not researched by you, but it's researched by Professor Rauner from from the University of Bremen. And he researched which is the best system in vocational educational training. And he found out that 3 countries are doing that. This is Germany, this is Austria, and this is Swiss. And my school has a question from China to come to China to bring this system to China. But it's not so good for my school, because I can only send my good teachers. This is bad for my school, you know. And let us look why we have changed the system in my school before I show you how we have done it. These are the most important competences what industry and handicraft wants to have from young people. It's not very new. It's from 2005. There's a new study, and they say the same. And when you look, you see you must have the language in reading and writing, and you must have a second language. This is usually English, or for the other lands, perhaps German or French or something else. Better like Chinese. If you look here in this line, you can't find anything about the lessons like German, English, mathematics, or something else like this. What we know is that when the students are able to fulfill these tasks, they will be able to do everything. And that's what you said. So let's look how we have done it. I painted a picture for you. This is usually on a on a paper, but I made a photo. My opinion is that we have to change the attitude of the teachers. Our problem are not the students or the pupils. Our main problem in Germany are the teachers. We must bring young people from dependence to independence. This is the job we have to do, and it's the best job in the world. I agree with you. And the aims is to give more empathy, more motivation, more success. If you look in the German system, you've usually found that the teachers will look for mistakes. But this has no power. The power is in the things what I make good. And so we changed the system and we said, first of all, we must have another view for the teaching. The view is we are coaching the students or the pupils. We are working in weeks, and every teacher is working on the same theme in this week. And while you do it, it's not possible to be the best in the case you are doing, but you're the best coach if you have no knowledge about what the pupils must do. Most of the questions are questions of organizing. And if there are questions which can't be answered by the teacher who is coaching, he must organize someone who can answer the student what he wants to know. And the most important thing is we have the knowledge that it's possible also in the classroom by themselves. There's another pupil who knows the answer of the question of the other one. So the learning is one student learns from another. Therefore, we need new kind of education for the teachers. This is coaching. This is not very well known in the universities in Germany, I think. Perhaps some do it, but I don't know it. We need further education for the teachers that they will be able to use the new media. This is a very important part. And we need a real teamwork. And if you ask me, what would I do? I would like to say, let us open the school at 7:30 and we end at about 17:30 or something else like this. And every teacher has to be in school. And they have 30 days of holidays or not more to give new development for new teaching materials. So and the blue part on the figure shows to make learning better, we must use new technologies. But it has only the character of, yeah, I will be there if I need it. It's in the classroom. If I'm exploring something, I go to I take my iPad or something else like this, and I explore it with my iPad or with my telephone. And also what you need is we have a quality circle around, outside. And the yellow plan outside is planning, doing, evaluation, and then act to be in a new circle. That's what I want to say in the moment.
Thank you very much, Wilfried Dülfer. There is a question with 17 votes, and that is digital quite often disproportionately benefits the most able students. How can we make sure that we particularly help lower performing students? Maybe you both can answer that.
Well, we know that digital skills are core to employability. So especially now in the debate that has been around refugee employability, finding out digital skills are totally key. The interesting thing is that the distribution of digital skills doesn't follow the normal distribution scheme of classically acquired skills. So there is an opportunity for equality coming along. One of you has said every child has a smartphone today. By far not every teacher has a smartphone. So there's an interesting process to come our way.
maybe in the setting of your schools?
Well, I believe that in my school, 98% to 100% have a smartphone or something else like this. So it's possible to use the new media everywhere. I don't see the reason that there's not the new media in school. This is not the question. The question is a pedagogical question.
This is why I came up here and tried to step in. We know from research that this is really a problem, that many medical settings are very complex and overwhelm students which are not so much self-regulated learners. So in order to really develop good learning settings, we have to make sure that they're really adaptive and that really not just the very flexible and active students benefit from them, but really also the lower-level students. And this is something where we really need research. So your question was about research, not just that we propose learning with media is so nice and so everybody can benefit, that we really have the situation and that we do not enhance the gap between the high-level and low-level students. This is really a problem.
Yes, that's a very important issue. Thank you for that, because we know till kids are 25 years old, the neurological software doesn't give them the opportunity to self-organize and self-regulate their educational growth, even if you have the lowest level or the highest level. So the teacher is more important about that, and they all use this kind of things, but I doubt if they use it all on the right way. And when they are investigating the Victory Tower, for example, I gave, then it's not the first hit on Google which gives the right answer, and that we have to practice and to teach them.
Maybe, if I may, one of the things I found most interesting in Singapore is one particular classroom tool, which is a continuous student engagement tool. So what the teacher does is every student has their own smartphone, and basically all the questions asked and all the debate happens constantly on that second device, which allows to see that every student, everyone in the classroom, every moment is engaged. And since it's in most cases not one teacher, but two or teachers in this classroom, there's smaller groups that can be formed of those who obviously are not following. You can see that on the digital thing, and they can be helped in a very different way. So this has been extremely powerful, at least in those sessions we saw and we monitored. Have a look at it at the PISA for You video. This is a way how digitalization in the classroom can enhance equality and can enhance transparency and create opportunities that you otherwise don't have.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful introduction of the last panelist, because he will talk about the shift from written text to audio-visual formats in learning, which might be conducive to equality. It's Carsten Wolf, the head of the SEMKI lab in Bremen University, Media Education and Educational Media. He is head of the Scientific Board Center for Multimedia in Teaching, Vice Director of the Professional School of Teacher Education. So please, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks for the invitation. And so I will talk a little bit about like the de-schooled classroom. And I admit I watch a lot of YouTube, but 80% of all the students in Germany, they use YouTube to learn for their tests. And so this is an example of an untraditional teacher, because he's a math student from East Germany, and he's spending 100 hours to produce these math songs where he describes and explains here, for example, how to do vector algebra. So the interesting thing is that that YouTube has become the biggest audiovisual encyclopedia we have, and it's the second largest search engine. So young people today, if they want to know how to do something or want to learn about something, they just go to YouTube. And the great thing is that they can go there for curiosity. So, for example, this is a YouTuber. His channel is called Because Science, and he asks questions which are relevant to young people.
This is what I mean. Take a look at this footage. How is Tony making what looks like a 90-degree turn at jet fighter speeds without somehow destroying himself?
Okay, so now he starts to try to answer this question.
The suit stops, but Tony and his insides need to be stopped by the suit, like a seatbelt in a car. At the very least, Tony's brain would keep moving as his skull stopped. It would smash into it and bruise, giving him an instant concussion like football players get when they crack heads. So why doesn't this happen?
So when he tries to get a scientific answer and explain everything about inertia and how to prevent this, and from studies we know that a lot of engineers watched science fiction series 20 years ago, and now they create all the technology they saw. And so this is a really good example how people can get interested in things and just from the curiosity learn something. So
there are a number of physical objects that can be used as a qubit. A single photon, a nucleus, or an electron. I met up with researchers who are using the outermost electron in phosphorus as a qubit.
So this has been another example of somebody who's tried to explain how a quantum computer is working, and I don't know how many of you know how this is working. So you really can go there and you just not see not only cat videos and how to repair your bike, you can really learn deeper stuff there. And so in the first study, what we did, we said, okay, this seems to be the digital learning elite, and we interviewed people who are doing these YouTube tutorials and created these maps. This is somebody who's doing food and baking tutorials. So you can see some circles with some platforms like Pinterest and blogs and so on. So we did this with 10 people, 5 from the cooking and baking domain and 5 from the painting and drawing domain. And what you can see is that there are some media all of them are using. So they're using YouTube and they're still using books and magazines. But then there are domain-specific differences. For example, the painting and drawing people, they have a platform which is called DeviantArt, where it's like a forum, and they post and share all their stuff and discuss it. And nobody in the cooking and baking domain uses it. And on the other side, on the cooking and baking domain, a lot of people use blogs. So in communication and media research, we look at this, we say, okay, everything, all the media which is there is a media environment, and we look at these individual media repertoires of these learners, and then we build a kind of learning domains media ensemble. This is all the media which is used in this learning domain. So we studied 2 different domains. The one was multiplayer online gaming, so all the people shooting each other in online games or playing multiplayer online battle arenas. And on the other hand, people DIY and makers, so the 3D printer people and people creating stuff. So again, there was a large overlap of the big platforms like Facebook and YouTube and blogs, which all of them use. But if you then looked at the other media people were using in the DIY maker, you see a real large amount of different media, and it's this much more complicated if you would see it in a typical school where you just have 4 or 5 media types. And the interesting thing is that really in each of these domains there are really complex, different ensembles you can see here. And so this means there's a big differentiation in this de-schooled learning environment, which is happening in a way self-organized. So this is what we are doing in the mediatization research. And if you look at the picture, it somehow looks the same with different media. But what we are thinking about is it really the same? And is this the same structure? So it's not just the media you're looking at when you're analyzing learning, but you have to see who are the actors. And so what we did is that we studied the actor constellations of learning, for example, in the multiplayer online gaming area. And when you can research discourses in these learning domains, what came out is in all these deschooled learning domains, each of them, we have, well, obviously we have a learning arena, but we also have a big commercialization arena. So in school, it's much more close, and we try to be non-profit, and there's not so much thinking about how to make money out of it, at least in Germany. But in these areas, we really have to look who's setting the curricula, what is learning, so we really have to be critical about that. And then there are other domain-specific arenas, and in this case, that's the metagame arena. So who's playing Clash Royale or Clash of Clans from you? Just one, okay. So these are big online games you must see to understand what your students are doing. Each month they change the rules because some of the things you can use are too mighty, and then they just downgrade them, they nerf them. And when there's a big discussion about this, and this is a metagame, and this is a really intense learning situation. So here we have the metagame arena and the DIY maker arena. You have something we call the sharing community arena. In this specific domain, you cannot learn, or you cannot be an important member in setting the curricula if you're not sharing. And so I think this shows that you really have to look at each domain to understand it. And so to sum up, the thing is now, how can we connect all of this back to the vocational system? And one of the problems is that I showed you all these YouTube tutorial people, and they are great, but there are not so many. And a lot of young people, even here in Germany, they don't get into the system because they don't have a language and all that. So how can we get some interest, take their interest, develop skills, and get them into a vocational apprenticeship? So we demonstrated a prototype at the IT Summit in Saarbrücken last year of an app. On the first view, it looks like it's like a YouTube or Vimeo for tutorials. But when we did some innovation, and the thing is, normally it's very hard to participate. People are not doing a real 5-minute tutorial because it's really damn hard to do it. And the math guy, he spends 100 hours on this. So what we are doing is that people can look at the tutorial, and while looking at the tutorial, they can snap a picture or snap a video of them doing it. So it's much more low, it's much easier to participate in it. So what we do is, in following the tutorial, we make some pictures of this. And first, it's interesting for the people who do the tutorials because they see, oh, people are really using it, and maybe they change it and they build upon it, and it gets really bigger, and I can learn from this too. And the second thing is that you have a kind of visual portfolio. You can go there, and then people can find you and give you a vocational apprenticeship. So to recap, YouTube is a kind of interest-driven, self-organized, informal learning space. You really have to look at it. These unschooled digital learning configurations are very highly complex, and they're self-organized by these people. So it's not that things are too, okay. So, and to understand this, all of this learning in digital age, you have to go into these discourse arenas to see who is really influencing what, and to do this critical. And in vocational education, I think audiovisual and mobile communication is the thing you have to use, and not so much of a written communication. Thank you.
I think the mic is on the move now for you. There are overarching questions like what do we need in education? Is it disruption and revolutionary approaches, or is a gradual development step by step also possible, or a coexistence of all that? Another question could be exponential development in the digital world. Is it more formal, non-formal? We heard about these YouTube approaches. And the Berlin Consensus paper mentions as item number 1 mindset. How can we change the mindset of educators to adopt new roles and embrace technology for better teaching and learning? These are the questions, and now it's your turn, but of course the panel is also active, still active. Jan.
Well, I think we need a disruption, but not a revolution, because it's all about kids and their future. And I mentioned already, I have 4 other schools, and they are normal traditional schools, but they are moving in another kind of mindset now. The teachers who are working there are moving in another kind of mindset, and then it's all about leadership. It's all about leadership. I blamed a few minutes ago a little bit the politics, but it's all about leadership, and there are not very many school leaders who have the guts and who have to dare to topple down the system and build a new one together with their teachers, because you have to do it together, not with the revolution, but with an evolution, by showing what is still going on in the world, bring them together and talk about it, and show each other what you have to do in certain situations. You have to do it for sometimes, so you can learn and figure out for your own feelings what is good and what is bad.
Okay, are there questions or comments?
Yes, I actually have a question, and I may just take the microphone afterwards because it's so neat. My name is Patrick Russell Allison from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I heard earlier on that a few of the keynote speakers were talking about how more research was needed to figure out, does this digital innovation stuff actually work? Can you talk a little bit about the tension between doing, 5 to 10 years of research and missing an important global trend?
Well, I think we have research since 20 years about technology-enhanced learning. Many of this research is evaluation research, which means it shows that a learning setting in a specific context with a specific teacher with a specific content is effective. What we really need to have is really research that can generalize these results. And there is some research going on, of course, some research also trying to link this kind of media stuff with what we know about learning in general. So it's not everything going different now because we have media, so the learning system in our mind is the same. So we have to link this research about media to the basic research about cognition, about learning, about teaching. And we have to do some meta-studies now. So we have to try to generalize or to look across the different studies we have with good methodologies sometimes, and to find some effects we can really see as a summary or as a whole. And what still now is really missing is some more large-scale studies with controlled studies. So in PISA, for example, and other school studies, we have much better data with much larger samples, which representative samples. We don't have this in the media aspect, and this is what we urgently need, I would say.
Very 1 second, digital skills will appear in PISA at some point, so this is to that. The key issue is a redefinition of what didactics is. We have a lot of science in almost all the fields. We have wonderful publications. What is lacking is taking into account what you have just described, how young people actually do interact with media and how learning does happen, to redefine how didactics in this world has to be composed and what are actually the didactical systems to be used. There are not shortcomings, there are tremendous and massive shortcomings. So from our side, it is about running pilot projects and evaluating those extremely well, making the findings known to larger communities and allow governments and entrepreneurs and civic society alike to build upon that.
Thank you, Carsten Wolf, and then we have another question.
Yeah, I also would like to add that in my group we are using the approach of design-based research. So I used to do this kind of research where I developed something for 2 years and when I really tested it and so on. We cannot do this anymore, I think. Well, in basic research, yes, but to really get this forward going, in design-based research you have cycles, and it's really short cycles, and in the first beginning when you try things out, you really get from doing it, evaluating it, and reiterating it, in just like in agile development, in just a few months. And this is really a good add to the basic research.
Yeah, I'm Volker Hartkopf, I'm also from Carnegie Mellon, but my question is, how do we address the challenges to make opportunities for the next generation? And here is my proposal as a question, and that is, how can we measure the actual performance of the school building and compare that to the health and well-being of the occupants, and how other school buildings all over the world can learn from each other how to make their own built environment an opportunity for the next generation. And so the data analytics, the measured reporting and verification is a very important issue that the digital revolution can address. But right now, it's not being addressed enough. And in the Dutch example, it was a wonderful example of making kids experience what it looks like to see the future that's desirable. So that's my question, how digital, let's say, innovations can address the challenges to make opportunities for the next generation.
Anyone?
Well, first of all, I might say my opinion is that we have to change the attitude of the teachers, like I told. Our problems are not the students, and then we must use learning management systems which are globalized, perhaps, like Khan University or something else like this. And it's impossible that the changes in the schools are every 5 years without making a new contract that we need new systems in school. And also in the infrastructure that must be done by professionals and not by teachers. These are not the right persons. Teachers are for teaching and not for making infrastructure in schools.
Holm.
We know about the massive importance of architecture and physical environment for the learning process. We know it in university, we know it in schools. And the one note I would like to add is, in the digital environment, such environment is equally important, and virtually nobody actually looks at how the stuff looks like, feels, and what implicit stories it tells. This was not your question, but maybe building on it.
It was my question, but I didn't say it well enough.
I think this discussion is also reflected in the Berlin Consensus paper, because it speaks about holistic strategies, and I think that's very important, that we think bigger in this field. And unfortunately, I have to draw this session to a close because there's another one before lunch break. But I think all the topics will be taken up later during the conference. We will have a wrap-up session tomorrow. And I think the session on higher education will pick up certain items like maybe teacher education, which is a very, very important thing we just very briefly touched upon. So thank you very much, Ulrike Kress and the panelists, for this very interesting discussion and presentations. I think challenging and thought-provoking examples, which are maybe not typical in the landscape of the digitally enhanced classroom of today, but maybe tomorrow. Thank you very much.